Welcome to the Workhorse Podcast. This is Jessica and Kendall, and we are back for the first time since July.
I'm probably 2 months behind when we said we were but we're back. That's all that matters. Let's
I
not
think we did say October. So if anyone's keeping track, we're
I was
probably
getting DMs.
we do.
Thank you for keeping us accountable, but we did ignore your accountability group.
No, I mean, okay, so to be fair, when we called it in July, we both were getting ready to jump off the deep end in some things, and
Yeah.
market was right around the corner, and we were like, "Whew, okay, time to pause on passion projects because it's time to dig deep and kick butt in projects that pay the bills." And then those I'm making hand motions because I don't even know how to like verbalize this, but those projects like morphed, expanded, took on lives of their own, came out of left field. I don't even know what happened. We've also
I
then
definitely
holidays.
thought my project was gonna wrap in the same month as your project, and mine didn't wrap until the end of October, which is very likely the reason that we did not get on here sooner, because
No,
after October 25th, my entire world exploded for the farm.
no, that wasn't even the reason. There's even more. That'll be like season 2, episode 3 about why it got delayed. And then the holidays hit. And I
Mhm.
don't know about you, but I just took down my Christmas tree today. So,
You won't see it on Instagram because the corner of my screen will be cut off, but my Christmas tree is still up in my office. I have an office Christmas tree. I'm that person, and my office Christmas tree is still up.
I I'm not even going to show you my office, to be honest with you. It has just devolved into piles at this point.
I picked a good angle for mine.
I'm so proud of you. Okay. So when we left off, the last episode, season 1, Never Have I Ever, and you had sworn you were never going to be in restaurants,
Yeah.
kitchens, and that was rapidly shifting. So to bring everybody up to speed, so if you haven't caught season 1 yet, go back, listen to that. Do give us some grace for the very first episodes of season 1. We didn't know what the heck we were doing. It was the learning curve.
Give us grace for season 2, episode 1, because we forgot what we're doing.
That's fair. That is fair. But Reader's Digest, where were we at when we ended in July? Give them like the intro. What were you doing and where were we at?
Okay. So we were building a new farm store. And at that time, I was stuck in some government red tape about what we were going to do on whether or not we wanted to open a commercial kitchen in our new farm store. So, for those of you who are not as familiar with my farm business, I own Central Park Farms. We have an on farm butcher shop. We had a retail that was like, it was really imperfect. It was basically it was where we called it pick and pack. It was where we packed our online orders, and we just kind of opened it. It was really not pretty. It was very scrappy. We did a shocking amount of money out of a non-beautiful space, but it was really not built to be a store. And then we decided that we were going to revamp a 50-year-old horse barn into a farm store, do a proper cute farm store, and my husband and I, over a bottle of wine at a restaurant, while we were staring into one of those kitchens that's open and you can see the hustle and bustle, decided that we were going to put a kitchen in the farm store. And then we were just kind of in the last episode of season 1, we were just kind of figuring out whether we were going to actually have to park a food truck inside the building to get around some red tape, or if we were going to be able to open the kitchen. And I'm proud to say that we have a kitchen.
You have a kitchen. I'm
We
so
have a kitchen.
jealous. It looks amazing. It looks like every experience I want to have. But back up just a tiny bit there because you kind of glossed past the 4,000 square foot horse barn. Was it about 4,000 square feet?
I have no idea what the square footage is. So it was a very large horse barn. Yeah.
Very large. This
Yeah, it's
isn't
not,
like
I wouldn't say it's not 4,000. It's not, I mean, maybe when the entire barn, but we didn't take over the entire section,
mm,
of the entire space. Um yeah, so it definitely was a big reno for us. It was a big And I think in one of the episodes, no, I know for sure. In one of the episodes of season 1, I naively you asked me if it was gonna cost a lot more money, and I was like, "No, it's not gonna cost a lot more money because 'cause we're already doing all these things." No, it cost a lot more money. Like, a lot more money. It was ended up being a very big project.
But I remember you showing a video and you were walking down the center aisle. This is like for people that aren't horse people, this is fancy horse barn. This
Yeah,
is,
like
like
50 years
sliding front
ago.
doors,
Yeah.
like aisleway that you would hear the clip clop, the romantic clip clop of horses' hooves down the center aisle. They all turn out in their own,
Yeah, okay,
thing,
so maybe
whatever
I
you
should
call
give
that. Like, it's very
a
fancy.
tiny, tiny backstory. So my in-laws who owned the barn and built the barn, they were one of the most winningest horse breeders for standard bred racing. So not the racing where the jockey is on their back, but he's in a cart. They originally did jockey racing, then they did cart racing. So that was where they bred race horses for racing here in Canada and a little bit of racing into the US. This is also
Fancy.
when the Budweiser drill team would come to Canada, this is where they'd quarantine. So they would bring those big, the big Budweiser
Mhm. Yeah,
Clydes. They would
Clydesdales,
come
yeah.
here. In fact, we even have a shoe from one of the Clydes on the wall
Oh.
inside the farm store because this is where they would come when they had to quarantine when they crossed the border into Canada. So, like my in laws, they were a deal in horses back in the day. Now
I
there's,
just
like, 3 horses on the farm, and that's all we've got left, but, like, we
'cause they
weren't
got
using
smart.
this barn, and so when it was time and we were outgrowing our space, my mother-in-law, like, so graciously offered us this. I did not wanna do this project, though. All I wanted to do was build a new walk-in freezer. This escalated from all I wanted was a new walk-in freezer because we were outgrowing the butcher shop, and then this turned into my mother-in-law being like, "Why don't you guys just, like, take over one of our buildings?" And here we are.
And so let's give the rundown of what do you have now. So the goal was a walk-in freezer. List off your amenities now.
So now the butcher shop is the entire other building. So we used to have the butcher shop and the pick and pack farm store all in one building with its walk-in freezer. We now have totally new infrastructure of like our new parking lot. We've got new full kitchen, walk-in freezer inside the farm store, walk-in cooler inside the farm store, new washrooms, new lunchroom, new office, new retail section because we never used to sell any products that weren't our own. But my goal has always been in our area, there's like multi-million dollar farm stores that are just huge. Like we farm outside of Vancouver. They're really, really high end that are basically they're a grocery store. Not basically, they are. They're a grocery store and they're stunning and they're huge and they are purpose built. This is not a purpose built building. This is us modifying a building that we had access to and turning it into what feels like to me, like our store feels very different in that it feels like home. You don't come in and there's not like aisles where you check out at the cashier desk. It feels like you're walking in and it's a big kitchen island. And that's kind of the
Mm.
feedback we get from everybody is they just like they feel homey. It's got like antique furniture and it's got a big giant island in the center and you go get your products and we've got the baskets and stuff, but then you can just kind of find your spot on the island and we'll check you out. It's just a very different shopping environment. It's kind of a hybrid between we do a ton of business and our high revenue, but then it kind of feels like a small farm store. It's a little bit less common for the farm of our size to be set up this way.
And so what you just described was exponential increase
Oh,
in
yeah.
amenity from where you started. Hence probably your exponential increase in costs.
Honestly, like I did a reel where I was joking. It had like the Sarah McLachlan song for like I was gonna give Jay up for adoption if he brought me one more price increase because it felt like every time I turned around, he was like, first, we just needed to build a walk-in freezer. Then it was okay, well, in order to do that, we're going to expand on this building. And then, okay, instead of doing that, like it escalated to the point that we had to like trench gas lines, trench power lines underground, but for far. Like there wasn't enough power to that building because it's a horse barn. So there wasn't enough power. There wasn't enough gas. There wasn't any gas. So there was a lot of permitting and all the things.
So, what was the tipping point? Because the whole food truck argument about having a food well, not argue it wasn't an argument, but the whole point of the food truck was because there was rules in
Yeah.
Langley that, like, a food truck could get away with being parked in there even if it never moved, but that was different than the commercial kitchen?
It all came down to the exhausting for the, so basically what we did is we don't have deep fryers, which we never wanted anyways, but you still have to have, exhaust. So it all came down to the type of exhaust system that we were able to put in. The easier option for what's allowable is you can park a food truck inside because the food truck already has the exhaust built into the food truck, and somehow that's okay. So a lot of the, like,
Even though the food
workaround.
truck would be, like, exhausting into the building?
Yeah, because it's the, grease-laden vapors is the problem.
Oh,
So it's grease laden vapors, so it would stop the grease
mm.
from escaping the food truck. So it's based on the fire suppression that already exists inside a food truck and the exhaust versus having to get rid of the grease-laden vapors in the farm store and then expel the air out and then re-regulate the air. So, like, as air leaves the building, it needs to suck new air into the building while getting rid of the grease laden vapors and making sure that it is, like, properly fire suppressed in the event of a grease fire. Hmm. All
Just
I
things
wanted was a
I
walk-in
never
freezer.
yeah, that chalk that up to things I never thought I'd need to learn about, but
Yep.
probably ought to be paying attention to, I guess. Um, okay, so what did you end up doing? Because there was a whole conversation, right, that Langley there was something to do with the Windsor. So you own the Windsor in
Yeah.
Boundary,
Yeah. So,
which is tied up in red tape, but what there was like
mhm.
some you were catch us up there.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, a lot of time passed since we've talked last, so we were just
Yeah.
able to work through the process, and then we ended up opening we did our grand opening on October 25th, and so, like, you have to work through, obviously, the construction end of things, but then there's also the whole additional layer of an additional health authority approval, so they decided to run the kitchen independently from the butcher shop. I thought we're just gonna expand on our already current and, no blemishes ever have been on our health authority approval. We've never had an issue with a water test. We've never had an issue with, like, ever had anything with our butcher shop. So I thought, like, oh, this will just be easy. We'll just expand on our already. But because they're technically two separate buildings on the same property, they required us to go through all of the steps of getting a new health authority approval for that space. It's actually running as an independent business as far as the health authorities consider. So, like, we had to do an entire new water treatment system. We had to get a water treatment plan. We had to get all of the licensing for that and then do an independent approval for our health authority for that building instead of just an expansion on. So we had announced our open house for October 25th, and we didn't have our inspection until, like, I don't know, 6 days before. And we had announced, like, there was going to be food coming out of the kitchen and there was going to be all of these different things. And I have never more weekly promoted anything in my entire life as I did that grand opening. I was like, I sent a newsletter, and our chef that works with us, that works out of that kitchen, was like, you almost sounded like you didn't want people to come to the grand opening. Cause I was like, you can come, but, like, also don't worry if you can't come because it's like we're in the store forever now. And so it's okay if you can't make it. Like, it was very timidly going into that because I thought, like, what happens if we fail? And then suddenly, like, we have something because, like, there were problems leading up to it. We had an atmospheric rain and we were flooding, like, the roof was leaking. Jay was on the roof the day before our health authority re-screwing this 50-year-old roof, like, in an atmospheric rain on a metal barn roof, like, getting that all screwed down. We Oh my gosh, okay, so we hired this plumber, obviously, because I have to have it under a plumbing permit, so it's not something that we can do ourselves. we hire a plumber does all this. We have to have all this filtration and UV setup to be able to have the water comes out of a well, so you have to have this whole setup and everything has to be tested, and everything in the kitchen was working. It's working for days. Everything's good. The morning of our inspection, our chef goes and turns on the water and the water stops. A
No.
tiny piece of a brass fitting was faulty and it broke off inside the line. And I kid you not, Jay was cutting apart the entire plumbing system while our chef, I was like running back and forth because where the tools were stored is not right there. So he was like, Kendall, I need you to grab me this. And I was like sprinting to the point that, when your lungs burn because you're like, I need to do more cardio in my life. Like, lungs burning every time I'd run into the store to grab something. Somebody from our crew would be like, we need to cancel the inspection. And I'm like, we're not canceling. We are not canceling. Like, we're going to figure it out. Jay found the spot. Like, he's cutting plumbing and like literally breathing through the plumbing sections to try to figure out where it's clogged. He found it 15 minutes before the guy came. The guy came, Jay couldn't
No.
even be there for the inspection because he was soaked. He was like digging up like in the mud during an atmospheric, like, you guys, you can't even make it up. Like, during an atmospheric weather system, he was mud to his thighs because he was digging up the water system to figure out, and it was just a faulty piece of brass. It was insane. Like,
Oh.
he's like, you need to go back in there and meet him because I've got to go change because I can't come in. Like, he looked like he should not have been in a kitchen.
Like there was an issue.
Like there was an issue.
Like
Like, he was disheveled. So I was marketing it in the lead up thinking like, we don't have our health authority yet and I need to market it, and we had to open. Like, this thing was just purging all of our money, taking everything we had. We were doing so much of it ourselves, which means if we're doing so much of it ourselves, our books were behind, our like we weren't cutting as much meat. So it was like our sales were a little bit depressed. Not like everything was fine, but you're still not capitalizing, and we could not roll into like November, December is our busiest time of year because it's lead up to the holidays. And so we're
mm.
slammed that time of year. And I was like, we cannot be not cutting enough. And like, our fiscal year ends in December 31st. I couldn't have this rolling over. So it was like, we're opening, but like, maybe don't show up if you don't want to. It was the weirdest marketing.
Well, I remember because we talked like once before market, and then I think I ghosted you most of the month of September and
Yeah,
then
I
recovered from
ghosted
market.
you.
Well, then we talked like what was it? Maybe like 2 weeks before your grand opening. You had said, I think we're just gonna do a soft opening. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're just gonna slowly just be over there because I was like, oh, I'm done with market. I'm taking a deep breath. I actually had to be up in the Chelan area, so I'm kind of a little bit closer than I normally am. And I was like, hey, happy to come over. Like, you've always just been the best about coming down and helping with market and gather and all the things. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, it's my time to like repay the favor. And I left that conversation. I had called you and I'd been like, so I'm going to be most of the way there, happy to jump across. And I got off the phone with you and I looked at CJ and I was like, I don't know what to make of this right now. Like, he goes, what? And I was like, I I'm just very confused. Like, Kendall
I
and I
forgot I wasn't
throw
gonna
an
grand
event.
open. I wasn't
No,
gonna
yeah.
throw an event.
No, I mean, and it was like so weird because you and I can take anything and turn it into an event. And
Oh,
you and
for
I can
sure.
find any reason to make an event a thing. Like, let's make it a thing, right? And so here I am, like already, like I'm gonna load the car, we're making it a thing. And I got off the phone with you and I was like, what?
It
What was
was,
that?
yeah, I didn't wanna do a grand opening. I was just like, one day we're gonna because it was so up in the air on what day
Right.
it was
The
gonna be
painters, the
approvals and
painters were
painters,
an issue.
like, it wasn't until the very end, you guys. Like, there was not we hadn't had a targeted end date. We were basically building the plane as or whatever that saying is, like, as we were descending into the ground. Like, we were really not sure. And I just said to Jess, I was like, no, I'm not going to grand open it. And I explained that to Jay. We're just going to be in the old store. And then one day we're just going to be in the new store and there'll be a new sign and people will learn. So I didn't want to have this big grand opening. One day we were going to be in the old store and then suddenly we were going to be in the new store and everything was going to be fine. And then unfortunately for me, Jay and the chef that works in our kitchen thought that was really weird of me and of this company to do that. And so they
You mean that
decided,
wasn't on brand
no, it
to
wasn't
not
on
have, like, a big
brand.
event?
Yeah. So they talked about it and then decided that it was like that we should have a grand opening. And then I felt kind of like, I don't know. So we ended up
Wait,
having,
whoa, 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 don't gloss over that.
oh,
Hold on. Well, hold on. Let's go back for 1 second though, because this is the chef. If you've heard season 1, Kendall talked about, like, her prepared foods line
yeah,
and the relationship they have with the chef. This is the same chef. So,
yes.
not a new chef, same
Uh-huh.
chef, Chef Adrian.
We've worked together for years, knows Jay and I
Mhm,
very well, does all of our was our chef for all our events. So like
mhm.
that's our relationship is long table dinners with over 100 guests like regularly through the seasons for many, many years. So then I like felt a little bit pressured into having an event that I didn't want to have. And I was like a little bit salty about it. And as we neared the date that I think that's probably why the email came across that way, is because I didn't want to do an event and I was nervous we wouldn't pass. And then I was going to be the one that had to explain it. It's like all fun and games for the people whose face doesn't have to, and like voice doesn't have to be the one being like, yeah, we thought we were going to be fine. And then we didn't get occupancy and we didn't, pass our health.
Mm,
Like I just didn't want to have to change it and everything. So I did the weakest promotional email
it
and then we
was.
passed. And then I put out like another email that was like, we passed. Okay, yay. If I sounded timid the
Mhm.
first time, that was why. We actually would like you to come. And we expanded our hours.
PS, Chef Adrian, don't be mad at me.
Yeah, and then we expanded our hours to open at 9 and close at 3. We're normally 10 till 2. And we opened and there was one person. One person. This guy was waiting in the parking lot before we opened,
Oh,
and he came in and he was so excited, but there was just one person for a bit. There was only one person.
oh,
And I
okay,
was,
but, like, did you get a picture with him or
yeah, we got
something?
a
Like,
picture.
thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we got a picture of
Oh,
him coming through
yes.
the door. Like coming through the door, he later brought his wife back because he thought the store was so
Oh,
awesome. He wanted her to see it. No, it was great. But for a moment, your girl was like, why did I not advertise this? Because we had one person and like my entire crew was working. Everybody was there. And I was like, oh, I did it. I this is why I don't this is why I promote things heavily. This is why why did I not believe that we were going to get it passed? Why did I not trust in us? Why did I do that? And why did I like tiptoe into something? Because I'm not a tiptoer. And I was like, oh, this is it. There's going to be one person and that's going to be the end of the thing. It was not. It was not. We were so slammed. And that was like, I can't even explain to you how many people came to our store and how much money we sold in that day. It was insane. Like, I've never seen anything like it. It was
when
insane.
did it pick up?
Like, closer to our original open time of 10.
That's what I was just wondering,
Yeah,
is, like, did you feel like your regulars just kind of, like, they like, 10 was their time,
yeah,
and they were
like
just like,
people came at
"What is this,
10,
9?"
people came at like lunchtime because there was like food coming out of the kitchen and stuff. Like, it I'd say from like 10 o'clock until 3, you could barely fit in our store. Like it was, and plus it was atmospheric rain. So, like the day before, once I knew that this was happening, I was like Amazon priming umbrellas because I was like, I'm going to have Jagger and Pope, and they're going to have to, like, we're going to have to use overflow parking. Cause, like, once I decided, I was like, oh, what if we're busy? What if we're super busy and we're using the overflow parking and now all these people have to carry all their meat too far into the old parking lot during an atmospheric river? I'll get the boys to walk them out with their umbrellas and stuff like that. Well, we were so slammed. It was insane. Like so slammed to the point that the guys had to cut, like they were cutting meat to get it into the store. It was like we couldn't even have enough inventory.
Okay, so is there any butchering happening in the new store, or is it all at the
It's
old
all in the old, so the old store and the
in the
new
old shop
store
is
are
now the
only,
butcher?
they're like a driveway like separation from them. So it's
I
very,
would know
very
I would know this if you would let me come
well
help at your event.
because I didn't think I was, so I was like, I'm not gonna
I'm
get
just
Jane.
salty that I haven't gotten to
It's
return
like,
the
I'm not
favor.
gonna get Jess to leave her country, come to my country for my week. I don't even know if I'm gonna have a store on the 25th.
First of all, I would have been the first one there with, like, extra wine and charcuterie if it was bad, and second of all, you have always shown up for me, and honestly, it is kind of weird for me at this point that I have not actually been to the farm at Langley. I have gotten very close, like, over the summer, we went to Brianna's farm
Yeah,
to table dinner that was, like, 25 minutes away, didn't go,
yeah.
should have, and so I'm like, I'm just poised and ready, like, tap me in,
There'll be an
coach.
event now that we know how busy the store is. It's just I didn't know, and I, like, didn't
I
want
know,
anyone to make
that's
a
fair.
fuss because I thought, "What happens if we don't pass?" And then I'm like, "Sorry, guys." I don't know, it was weird because I wasn't, and because I wasn't initially wanting that for the, like, I just wanted to open in the new store for whatever reason. I just didn't want it to be super flashy because I think there was, like, too many unknowns that were out of my control. Like, government, like look at the hotel project and everything that's like I'm a little gun
Yeah.
shy on red tape.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Okay, so looking back, are you comfortable talking numbers? See, we didn't even
Oh
talk
yeah.
before this. Guys, you gotta
Yeah. Of
understand. I
course I
figured you
am.
would be. But we didn't even talk before this. So we've barely been text messaging and we finally found a time. So we're like, yes, we're gonna go. We're gonna record here. And then about 10 minutes before we started, Kendall's like, what are we starting with?
Yeah.
So there's been no prep period. But what was your starting budget for this project?
Well, I mean, I was hoping we were going to do a freezer for like 15 grand.
Okay, but, like, what was your realistic, like, we're gonna turn the barn into a farm store, like,
So
not
I
just a
got in a
freezer.
lot of trouble from our financial controller and bookkeeper for starting this project without a proper budget. So if I was going to say for
Oh.
others, don't do that, because she was like quite like, what are you doing? And then about 70% through the project, I was like, you're right. I totally should have done that. That was dumb because we were just like, we didn't even know how far we were going to go. And we didn't really know what, like, we were outgrowing our space. We needed a freezer. We were putting that in. Then it was like, okay, well, we might as well put a store over here. Okay, well, we might as well. It just, the project was changing so fast that there was never, like, I think at one point I made a spreadsheet, but that's only because I was like getting in trouble from our controller. So I was like, I guess I should put down some things.
You pay her, I mean, how much trouble can you get in?
I pay her to make sure she gives me trouble when I'm doing things I shouldn't be doing. That's the point. I'm paying her for that service. The service is give me
Oh,
trouble when I am doing
no.
something that is rogue. I need you to. So, anyways, I started it without, she was, yeah, I started and she was just like, that's
How
not
did
how
she
you do a
find out?
project.
How did she find
Instagram.
out?
She, like, has my Instagram where it, like, notifies her when I'm posting things. So,
But, I
like,
mean, like,
today,
what was her first red flag? Like, what was the
when she
first
saw the reel of me standing in the barn being like, "If Jay adds on to this anymore, he's up for adoption," and she was like, "We need to talk." She sends me like, she responds to my stories. So, like, today, I took a picture that was, like, back at my desk, and she's like, "I need to have a meeting with you and Jay this week to know what your guys' goals are for 2026 so that I can get ahead of it." And I was like, "Okay, when would you like to meet?" Because, like, we
Ugh.
hadn't communicated well that this is what we were doing because it was just like, "Oh, it's a freezer, and that's just what we're gonna do." And then the freezer turned into, "Okay, well, instead of adding on to this building, why don't we just put the freezer in this building?" And then it was like, "Okay, well, if we're gonna do that, like, it would be nice if we just moved the store." But the, like, pick and pack was always really, like, pick and pack was not nice. So I thought, like, we're
Mhm.
moving a not nice to a not nice. And then it was like, well, we might as well renovate it and make it look nicer. Then we went to that restaurant and Jay had a glass of wine or 3 or 5 and was like, let's open a kitchen because we were already doing prepared foods. And like the commercial kitchen leases are so expensive in our area. It's like, I think Adrian was paying like almost 3 grand a month. And he was like
Oh,
part-time rental for a
wow.
commissary kitchen.
So what I'm hearing is danger zone.
Yeah.
Well, we may as well just.
Uh-huh.
So if you're hearing yourself say that, well, we may as well just, please red flag that in your
Uh-huh.
brain.
Yeah.
Where do you feel like looking back on the build of it that you wish you would have been like, whoop, time out, stop. If this is, or did you have too much like construction ongoing as these, like, you know what I mean? Was there a spot where you really should have like time out, stop,
Um,
we need to get our sea
I
legs, or
mean,
were
if I
you
was being really smart, I would have had a better like I would have had stronger breaks before we did the kitchen. But that's because Jay got involved. I'm kind of talking quietly because he's in the other room, just between us and you guys.
the
Just for
girls
the
just between
listeners,
us?
the ladies listening, just know that like that was kind of a Jay thing. And so he like ran with that before I could catch up. And so I probably should have put the brakes on harder on that one just to make sure that we were like, you know, what's actually going to cost. Because I have no experience in that. Like, I know all the other stuff. Jay and I, this is not our first rodeo in construction. It's
Right.
not
No.
our first, like that I can run with. I can look at it and be like, oh, okay, we're going to do another one of those board and batten plays. We've done it multiple times in different
Mhm.
scenarios. I can kind of eyeball that. The kitchen equipment's what's hard because like we didn't know until we were in it about how complicated the fire suppression or the like oxygen and oxygen, that kind of stuff. Because we have never even worked in a kitchen. So like I don't even know what that looks like. Like I don't know that the drains all have to have this. And I didn't know that if we were having more than 10 people eating on not paper, suddenly we needed to have a dishwasher and 3 sinks instead of just if they're eating on to go, like if it's just, like those things, I had no idea.
So
And
are they
that
eating on paper
drastically,
or not?
that drastically changes what you need as far as equipment cost. Like adding a commercial dishwasher suddenly
Mhm.
is just like a
Yeah.
much, it's thousands of dollars more than if and it's an additional sink which is $1,000 and it's so those kinds of things can really creep on you pretty fast.
Okay, so what was your increase in budget? Like what how
I
much
think
over
when
were
all was
you?
said and done we were about 160.
Over or
No,
total?
160 altogether.
Okay, I don't feel like that's that much. Oh, I feel like that's a lot less dramatic than I was thinking.
Our final costs are being tallied right now, so I think
Oh,
we're
so
about
you'll report
160.
back.
Yeah, I mean, like that like stuff at the final push really kind of like adds up. So yeah, I'd say we were 160 and then some like knickknackeries at the end to get you over the finish
So,
line.
but this is now a farm store. I've seen you sharing products, which I think is so cool. And all
Mhm.
of them are local or all of them Canadian
Canadian.
made?
Canadian
Canadian. So
Canadian with
not
a
all
focus
necessarily
on
local.
local. So
Okay.
Canadian brands focus on local, meaning BC or
Mhm.
hyper local. But all food only.
Food only?
Food only.
Even,
We
like,
aren't
not
like
kitchen stuff? You're not doing, like,
no,
kitchen
it's
details?
like edible consumable food. We're not doing tallow bombs, we're not doing
Okay.
dishcloths, we're not doing anything like that. You have to be able to eat it in order for it to be in our store.
So, at what point in the process did you decide that? Because I don't even know that I didn't hear this conversation. Like,
Yeah, when did I decide that my best route was perishables? Another thing that a frozen meat producer does not. Like, what was I thinking? Like,
well, no, okay, so was this another glass of wine situation? Like
no, I just like I sell food and then I don't
mhm.
know. And this is like, please know if you have a farm store, and this is not, I'm like, this is not an insult. So please just take this. I just don't understand personally for me when there's not like a huge amount of retail space. Like I don't understand having a pottery bowl. Like I just like I like those things are awesome and I love it. And don't get me wrong, I buy pottery when I go to other people's farm stores, but to me, I want it to be like you're here to and I think it's because I sell meat. I sell a frozen meat product. So
Mm.
like they are there to get their groceries. They're there to buy frozen meat that they are going to cook. There's going to be cheese. There's going to be butter. There's going to be pierogies. There's going to be prepared foods. There's going to be jam that goes in the charcuterie, sourdough bread. Like that makes sense to me more so than bath bombs for me. That's just,
Mhm.
it just made more sense to how it made more sense to my customer base and what I know about my customer base. It made more sense for the flow of what, like, we are not a massive store. So we don't have room for everything. And so to me, it just kind of like complicates the message trying to
Mm.
fit in bath bombs and pottery and, crocheted whatevers. It just didn't fit for what we were doing as a business.
But at what point in the process, like, when and where did those decisions come down in your build plan
Um,
process?
I just knew that we were gonna have enough space that and I wanted it to look nice. Once we decided it happened when we decided that the farm store was gonna look nice. Because I can't make frozen meat look I know we've talked about this before, like with
Mhm.
farmers markets and stuff. Frozen meat doesn't look nice. So if you want things to look nice, you gotta have some
Mm.
stuff. And I was like, if I'm gonna fill it with stuff, I might as well fill it with stuff I'm gonna sell. And then that turned into, okay, for me, what does that look like? I don't want confusion in messaging. So everything became food based. Like we have a kitchen, we sell meat, we are a butcher shop. What goes with that is other food products. And
Was
so the
that an
focus
was
is
it an active like, was Jay involved in that
no,
decision, or was it
Jay's
just
not.
you? Just
No,
you?
no, he went rogue on it.
Is
He
it
he went rogue on a kitchen. Like he doesn't know. He doesn't have. I don't want to say he doesn't have anything to say. Like he just doesn't have an
Right, no,
opinion.
but
He doesn't
you
have to
didn't run that
market
past
it.
him.
No, he doesn't have to market it. He doesn't want to be involved in that. Yeah, we don't. We one thing about Jay and I is we really try to stick to a lane because
Mm.
there's too many like if he's got an opinion and I've got an opinion about it, typically what happens is he'll have an opinion once we get a product in on whether he thinks we should do a reorder on it. And that's only because he's eating it.
At the table.
Yeah, he's like there
I love that.
snacking on it. And he's like, yeah, we could do without that one. Or like, oh, you got to order this again. It was really good. And sometimes he says we could do without out that one. And I'm like, that's fine because it sells great. And that's just your opinion. And so we're going to keep ordering it.
Is every day like Amazon now? Like opening boxes? Is it like a surprise every time?
Yeah, there's a lot of products coming in these days. I think I kind of expect that that will slow a little bit now that we're past Christmas because it was just like such a high from like we opened
Mm.
October 25th and then we've just like basically in November people were starting to buy things like we made a stocking stuffer bar that had all these like food-based items that you could put in somebody's stocking for gift giving or like hostess gifts and grab and go stuff like that. So we kind of started selling that stuff in November and then December, obviously, with the holidays was insane with retail. It was insane in general with the farm store. And so I kind of anticipate a little bit of a drop off in retail sell, like the retail end of things in January. But we were open today and I was surprised we still sold a fair amount of the retail goods.
And what has it done on the back end of the butcher shop?
The butcher shop has really struggled to keep up.
And how even through because I know you said when you were building, like, having to have Jay being the one who built it meant that he wasn't cutting. So
Yes.
what did the butcher shop look like up to opening day?
We still have not caught up. And we haven't caught up because he wasn't cutting as much. But then even if he had been cutting full time, I don't think I could have anticipated how much busier we got once we opened the store.
Mm.
Like I don't think I really expected that kind of growth.
Did you do any projections leading up to opening day, or were you just head down and, like, running?
I think we were just head down running. I mean, we've always done I think that's the trouble with like trouble. This is going to sound so like this isn't a problem, but the trouble with Central Park Farms is we've always had such huge growth. And so the
Mm.
projections are always a struggle because we'll have 100% growth year after year or like more than 100% growth where it's just like it's almost like holding the wheel and you can't quite figure out it's just it keeps
Like, how do you
growing and
project
like,
on
how do you
that?
project on that?
Mm.
I can do a projection that I know this year, and don't get me wrong, I do, and I work through data points, and, that's what a controller
Right.
does, and that's what, I'll even throw some things into Chat GPT for, like, a quick approximation, but, I mean, we sold half of our first year's revenue in 1 day at opening, and people thought our first year was good.
Hold on, stop and say that again. You sold
We sold over
half
50% of our first year's revenue, entire first year that people thought was really good for a farm opening in 1
in
day.
1 day.
Mhm. In 5 hours. So, I mean, like, I can't forecast, like, I can't guess that. Like, the Jay
Wow.
had to leave the party to slice
The
bacon.
party he planned.
Yeah.
The
He was
party he
like
wanted.
the party he wanted. He was also very overwhelmed by the size of the party.
Oh,
I,
like,
like, found
people?
him out in the parking lot, and he's like, "I'm getting kind of." I was like, "What are you doing out here? You know that there's a party in there that you started. Like, this was your party." I was like, "Get in there and visit with people." And he's like, "I can't. I'm just kinda, like, misty." He's like, "This is really overwhelming for me." And he's like, "So I'm just counting all the cars in the
Oh.
parking lot." And I was like, "Okay, fair. Okay, you're cute. Fair. Okay, fine." And, like, I kept finding him. Like, so the farm store layout is we've got an area that has chest freezers in it, and that's where we put our once we pack an order, it goes into a chest freezer, and then that way one chest freezer for Vancouver deliveries, one's for Fraser Valley. So then on delivery day, the crew just goes and takes every one of the orders out of there to put it into the delivery truck. We just find it easier than having it in the walk-in. And so we have this like little alcove room, so it doesn't have a door, but it's its
Mhm.
own little room. And Jay like was in that room sitting on one of the freezers for like most of the opening, and like people just kept finding him. So I'd go in there and it was like the cool kids were hanging out in the freezer rooms. And honestly, I think it's just because he was like kind of overwhelmed by how much our community showed up for us. Like they were bringing gifts, like Emma
Oh,
from J&E Meats. Okay, shout out to Emma in Ontario. So for our Americans, the totally opposite end of the country. She
wow.
sent us flowers. She delivered us flowers and the most thoughtful card
Oh.
before we grand opened. So they were like on our big counter and she sent them to me. I got the most beautiful flower delivery from her. We have never met in real life. And I opened up the card
Oh.
and the card was addressed to me, Jay, and Jagger and team. So she like actually addressed it to Jagger. And I was so overtired. Like when I tell you I started ugly crying, then I went to go try to read
Oh.
it to Jay and Jagger and I started crying like immediate. I could barely get the first word out. And then it was like Jay and Jagger looking at each other, being like, did we do something wrong? Because they had no idea why I was crying. I was like, it's just because of flowers. It's so pretty. So yeah, shout out to Emma. Cause like just people just showed up. Like the community showed
Yeah.
up and it was super overwhelming and we were super overtired, like Jay was. So I think he just had like a moment. It was his party and he was gonna hide in the freezer room if he wanted to.
God bless people that become friends on the internet.
Right.
Seriously. I mean, some of them are the best. It's one of the best parts, especially if you have any sort of, I don't know, hitch in your get along about like local or people showing up or
Mhm.
whatever. And then someone does something like that is so cool. Now I'm kind of mad that I didn't think to send you flowers. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You were there to, like, listen to me be like, "I don't wanna have a party."
I just honestly told CJ, I don't know. Maybe we need to check on her. Like, has anybody texted Jay and made sure that we don't need to like intervene? But then I was seeing him in the background of your stories, like bombing past on something, and I thought, I don't even know if Jay knows if she's okay or not.
It was wild.
But CJ and I had a whole conversation
Mhm.
about just this is odd, and we were kind of trying to wrap our heads around it. We caught up to the opening, so stay tuned because we're gonna split this into 2 episodes, and the next one we are gonna talk about everything since the opening of the new farm store at Central Park Farms. So make sure that you catch us on the next episode.
Bye.